Ex-cult members of Reddit, how were you introduced to the cult and how did you manage to escape? According to my dad, who joined a cult when he was 17 in Cali and left about a year later. He joined because free drug use and free place to live. He left because the cult started to tell people not to contact their families and only the high level members got drug use anymore. He says after he left, the main leader went to jail for 6 crimes of some sort and the whole cult folded. I grew up in the family radio cult. What they are mostly remembered for is their 2011 prediction of the end of the world and rapture. Spoiler, the world didn't end. I was a young adult and able to leave in the chaotic aftermath without too much of a fight from my parents. I'm doing okay. Many people are not. Some are still making more predictions. I do want to take a second and say that 90% of the people in the group were kind people who really didn't want the world to end, but were just so brainwashed that they really believed it. Some of the nicest, most giving people just got sucked in, chewed up, and swallowed in the abysses that was. From birth. Literally walked away without a penny at 21. When you leave a cult, you not only lose your home, family, financial stability, but you lose your lifelong identity, your only known community, and you lose the ability to be sure of anything anymore. What cult? Please expand. Sounds interesting. Advanced Training Institute ATI. The leader Bill Gottard has in recent years fallen into disgrace after the bulk of us raised in the cult became adults and opened up about the horrible things they taught us and experienced. Gottard, as it turns out, wasn't just a narcissist who created an entire religion with himself at the head, but now many allegations of him molesting young girls have come out as well. No surprise to anyone who grew up in it, but he was very well respected in the Christian religious right world. Well, I was born into a family that were Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, whether they are a cult or not is debatable, but I for one do believe that it is one. The moment where I realized that I had to leave was when I brought my friend over one day. My mom scolded me for bringing them over and told me that everyone was out to ruin my life if they weren't in the same religion as us. They would talk about how they are horrible and corrupt people, that we needed to cleanse them. I took a look at my friend and I couldn't see that. All I saw was love and kindness. I knew that these views were corrupt themselves. And then I started to talk to my brother, who also shared the same thoughts. We both brought it up with our parents and the elders of our church, and none of them could give us any answers about anything. This is when we both decided that we cannot follow the lead of people that cannot explain what they are leading us into. In the end, we just didn't really believe in the religion itself. My mother is a follower of Supreme Master Ching Hai since 2004. Google her. Really weird when it first started. Tried to force my dad and the whole family to eat vegan and wasted tons of money on useless merchandise, like an $800 portrait of the master. Aside from that and the condescension toward us non-believers, no real culty threats like you'd typically hear. Edit, $dollar bill. I realized my family was in a cult when I was 10 and we had a burn party for the television. As it exploded, people chanted, "Die. Satan. Die." On mobile, so I'm sure I'm way late to the game, but here's my story. I literally walked into the Church of Scientology. I moved to Clearwater as a minor, made some friends and walked into, without anyone present with me, into what I thought was a museum. Being brought up without any religion, although both my parents were raised conservative Muslims, I grabbed onto the ideology of you are what you make of yourself. Long story short, 5 years later, while working for a Scientology owned company while still exploring whether I wanted to join or not, I got held hostage, literally, for 3 hours because I wouldn't accept their philosophy on a small incident and left the workforce only to have a beer bottle broken over my head by my LTR lifelong Scientologist boyfriend and have the cops, who were Scientologists, arrive at the house to determine there was nothing to escalate to a domestic violence report, and then later on, 2 days later, flee the house with my dogs and I what little I could with the time I had for my own safety. So yeah, that's my life in the cult. Some people are cool, Most people are brainwashed. TL. Duck Scientology. I've covered this when I first got on Reddit, but my parents joined a cult in West Texas when I was about 8-9 after searching for the truth their whole adult lives. Long story short, it wasn't that crazy at first. I like to use the frog in boiling water analogy. If it was that batshit insane when they first started going, they wouldn't have stayed. It became a doomsday cult. Multiple marriage. All the girls were married up by old elders, leaving nothing for us young dudes, so naturally, we rebelled. My escape wasn't as harrowing as some others, but my leaving did set up me saving my 15-year-old sister, under cover of darkness, abducting her from my dad's house and transporting her to my mom in LA, from marrying an elder who already had 4 wives and about 10 kids, who was later arrested for molesting his stepdaughter. It's been a wild ride, guys. This is my friend's story. He joined because he was homeless and they promised to get him clean and sober. He left because he got clean and sober. He took what he needed and faked the rest. There were others there out of desperation. He connected with a few of them. Their philosophy was eat the meat and spit out the bones. I'm still clean and sober. I had 3 years in January. My sister was involved with the cult for a little while. She never joined. She was too smart for that. But she was friends with a few of them. But of course, that's how they get you. Eventually, like a year or so after she started hanging out with them, they basically forced her to make a choice: join the church or get lost. They worded it differently, of course, about how they just wanted her to be saved and all that nonsense. Obviously they're just trying to prey on people with few friends and low self-esteem, making them scared to lose the only friends they have and tricking them into joining. My sister got the duck out of there and never contacted those people again. Smart gal. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, so I was brainwashed from infancy that this was the true religion. If you want an idea of what the cult was like, think of 1984. No. Seriously. That's not an exaggeration. The cult had no crimes, doublespeak, and a worshipful attitude of the governing body, head honchos of the cult, and anything they said was automatically right unless it was to be wrong later on by the same governing body. Any disagreement meant re-education in the ministry of love, or shunning, which meant complete avoidance by everyone still in the cult from you, including family members who were still in. I got out when I said enough is enough. I still haven't talked to my mother in 10 years. I had a friend who was born a Moonie. His mother and sister were still Moonies, but his father wasn't much of a believer anymore. Both he and his father just pretend to be Moonies for the sake of their mother, wife and sibling daughter. Wished he was a Redditor so he could come in here and share his story. During my paranoid druggy years I got pretty into Alex Jones and InfoWars. Closest thing I ever got to a cult. Looking back I see a 19-year-old moron. And for some reason I really wanted all that conspiracy shit to be true. And I'm not sure exactly why that was. Almost as if, were that stuff all true, and there was a grand conspiracy, on some weird level it would make up for the gaps in my life. Edit. Thinking back on that time, I remember writing this dramatic memo warning to the nation. Based on the Alex Jones stuff. I hadn't looked at it for years until about 5 minutes ago. It's actually oddly relevant now. Probably through sheer coincidence. Check it out. Edit number 2. Oh boy. The paranoia is coming back. I've been involved in a number of cults both as a leader and a follower. You have more fun as a follower but you make more money as a leader. I bought my first Apple product back in 1998 and since have constantly replaced each product with a newer upgrade. I feel I have lost all privacy, freedom and sense of identity, and yet I continue to pay my hard-earned towards this organization I am yet to escape and currently have 4 different iPhones and 2 MacBook Pros. Parents joined the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research when I was 4. Raised a minister and preached into my early 30s. Became a critical thinker. No coping skills. Passive aggressive AF. Back to the bang bottle. Thanks for asking. joined the 12 tribes of Israel back in 2012. I met them through one of their cafes in Colorado. The idea of communal living and dedication to a cause was very appealing to someone who hadn't had a job in a while and was going to lose their home soon. The mask of super friendliness and hospitality was covering up racism, child abuse, and total domination of people's lives. I mean total. From what time you woke up, to how you dress, to how to wipe your ass. Spent 3 years of my life there. Working 12 to 16 hour days 6 days a week. I was being groomed to get married and become a leader in the community when I left with just some clothes. The controlling nature of the place made it feel like a prison camp and I couldn't take it anymore. A year and a half later and I'm the happiest I've ever been. When I was studying at a university in Japan, a professor's wife decided to become friends with a number of students, including me. She soon began to talk about her Buddhist religion and invited me to a prayer session. I agreed to go, though at the time was unaware that it was really a Sokagake cult get-together. Over the next few months, I was reluctantly dragged to several of these meetings. Most of them involved the religious community getting together in a large hall to watch video recordings of their precious Daisaku Ikeda painting pictures or speaking, to which the attendees always reacted in admiration. It was almost like what you see in documentaries about North Korea, just complete adoration of an infallible leader. The woman was so nice and blindly devoted to her religion that I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But I eventually sent her a long email explaining that I wasn't interested in joining the religion. That it clashed with my own Christian beliefs, though in reality I am not religious, and asked her politely to never take me to another Sokagake event again. She apologized and said that she was never trying to get me to join the religion. And she promised not to take me to another event. We agreed to meet again for lunch sometime soon to make up. That lunch turned out to be another large Sokagake event. It was like she was completely blind to what she was doing. I gave up and just cut ties with her after that. I was born into the Jehovah's Witness cult. I was a true believer for 34 years. Then one day, I decided to do some deep research into the doctrines of the cult. I woke up from the cult within 2 months. Not me, but my friend's dad was in Scientology. She would talk all the time about her dad, who was a very successful plumber, basically building his plumbing business from the ground up and then expanding across multiple states. He would receive special training but only after he cut a new check that could otherwise buy a luxury car. It got so bad that he siphoned money off from the company, and it collapsed. After that, Scientology wanted nothing to do with him. It's a cult of money. They only want your damn money. My friend and her dad survived, but it took him a long time to accept defeat about what happened. I'm waiting for someone to mention their landmark forum experience. Wow. They tried to get their hooks into me in college. I remember the exact moment. I was hanging with a bunch of guys in the dorm. One of them starts talking about how he's found a great group. Suddenly, everyone else in the room says they've been as well. And hey, I should go sometime. I would totally enjoy it. This was before internet. Stop 1. Library. Figure out who they are and learn about Werner Erhard. Stop 2. A trusted professor. Stop 3. The dorm manager. Dorm manager was polite. But later, after I left, was overheard on the phone. I thought I'd seen everything. Now I've got a ducking cult. I don't think those guys ever forgave me for calling the housing advisors in. But it shut down their recruitment. I was born Mormon. I asked questions for years and got nothing but mental gymnastics. Example. I asked about Joseph Smith's 37 wives. 1 or 2 of whom were younger than 15. Polygamy happened because there were more women than men. And we needed more Mormon babies. So Joseph Smith was having sex with 15-year-old girls? And he sent men on missions to marry their wives? Oh. No. God only told him to put polygamy in place in order to take more women to heaven. Because temple marriages required etc. etc. Anyway. After being fed up with the bullshit, I decided to take research into my own hands. This meant reading what is referred to as anti-Mormon literature, which is expressly forbidden. Almost anything that puts the church in a negative light falls under this category. Just knowing this, without reading this, started to make me wonder. If there is one true religion, why would they be scared of anything that smears their name? Factual or not? If the church had maybe embraced some of their past mistakes instead of covering them up or creating poor excuses to justify them, maybe I wouldn't have left. But then again, probably not. After reading a lot of historical evidence, things kind of just fell into place. It really just made much more sense. Joseph Smith was a horny con artist that made a religion to gain money, power, and women. And it simply went too far. Every question I had was explained. After years of faking it and going through the motions, I moved out of small town Idaho when I turned 18. And I was done. They still tried to contact me and invite me to meetings until I had enough and had to send in a request to remove my records. Basically meaning my ordinances and covenants are null. That step was hard on my parents. IDK if they just thought I was going through some phase or something. But I had made it clear I wanted no part of their church. They didn't really think I was committed until then. In my opinion. The thing that makes me the most sad is that I know my siblings are sitting in Sunday school every week, receiving lessons saying I am evil and incapable of happiness because I am an apostate. I heard it when I was a kid and I know they do. I hate that the people I used to be friends with and the families that helped raise me as friends will smear my name to my own brothers and sisters. But such is life. I will never tell them the things that led me away from Mormonism. Their path is their own. But I hope they can find the truth themselves.